begin this episode.
It's like the movie Blade. It was Blade 2, where it was just a little too early for the CG.
Mm-hmm.
And so it ended up looking like, Gumby. And so, and you're like,
welcome. You're listening to Paleo Cheese Podcast, episode 21, part 1, with Todd Keisling, publishing, video games, and bad CGI.
hello, I'm Jeremiah Bannister.
And I'm Chad Lutsky.
And you're listening to Paleo Cheese Podcast, part of the Project Entertainment Network. We're the podcast where a seasoned horror veteran holds the white-knuckled hand of a horror newbie as they explore the genre together, film by film. It's good to see you, Chad.
It's good to see you too, man. And it's good to see our guest. We have a special guest tonight, author Todd Keisling. He's written a handful of books, some which include The Final Reconciliation, The Smile Factory, Scan Lines, and most recently Devil's Creek, which is probably going to be his, maybe as of right now, maybe your swan song, would you say, Todd? Do you think this is going to be the one that is getting the most attention right now, probably?
It's definitely the one getting the most attention, but believe it or not, Scanlines has also had a couple of moments over the last several months. Devil's Creek was probably the biggie for the year for me. So
that's cool. Well, dude, thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
talking horror and books and whatever else. Devil's Creek. I talked to you about this before. I think you sent me like early copy. I got like the collector's edition Devil's Creek. You sent me the book. Gosh, what was it, like May? Was it May 2019, or was it that early that you had that?
I may have sent you like the digital version.
No, it was a hard. It was a
copy.
Yeah.
It would have been May 2019. I had some I had some ARCs printed privately before we found a publisher, just so I could get a head start on getting blurbs and start building some buzz about it. Yeah.
And I again apologize that it took so long. I'm thankful that hopefully you've been able to use the blurb. But yeah, I sat on that thing I got it in the mail. I was like, oh, cool. And then I saw how long. I was like, oh man,
it
take me a while.
Yeah, it's totally fine. I mean, I know a lot of the reviewers who got it early from Silver Shamrock, they waited a while because they found the page count intimidating. It's like a 400-page book, and I don't know. I grew up in the the day when having like a doorstop novel from Kuntz or King was like something to cherish.
Yeah, we definitely live in it's weird. The fact that I write shorter fiction like novellas has been kind of a blessing and a curse. I've tried to figure out why it is that I do it, but the blessing part of it is the fact that I've found that not because of who I am, but because of how small they are, they end up getting higher up on the TBR, and often, and I'm assuming that having a bigger book sometimes, it's like, oh man, this is daunting. I just wanted to sit down for just an hour or two or something like that. But it's a great book, and it's very well written. Thank you for sending me a copy. I'm glad to see that you found a publisher, and that Shamrock has been doing a great job from this angle at promoting, because they were promoting it months ahead of time, and so that by the time it came out, people were pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate with Silver Shamrock, because I know some indie publishers out there don't really have the infrastructure or the means to really promote a book physically in advance. And I've got nothing bad to say about Ken. He was championing this book from the get-go, and I'm very grateful to him for taking it on, because we had a lot of publishers pass because of that word count. And that's one thing where I was passionate about it and saying, okay, the word count is justified because of X, Y, and Z reasons. And, you know, some of the larger publishers were just looking at, you know, they were just looking at their Excel spreadsheet showing them how well books in this, you know, this word count perform versus a book that's like half the size and the costs involved and everything. And when we started talking to Ken and Silver Shamrock, it just seemed like, you know, the perfect match, because he got where I was coming from with it. He got the inspirations behind it, and he also has no issue with large epic horror novels. And I figured, okay, I probably got one of these in me for my writing career. Well, let's do this and get this out of the way now, because God knows I'm not going to be feeling it 30 years from now.
Yeah.
Well, that's hilarious. Like you're like, I've got one. It's gonna happen, guys. And when you say Ken, and you're saying Shamrock, like what is Ken's last name? I mean,
I'm sorry, Ken McKinley.
Okay, because I couldn't help it, man. Every time you would say Ken with Silver Shamrock, I'm thinking Ken Shamrock, the UFC fighter, and I'm like, did he get out of that and into like book stuff? And you're like, he's really hardcore about horror stories and novels, and I'm like, I never imagined, Wow. So, yeah, okay, yeah. Speaking about it, go ahead, Chen. Go ahead.
I was Ken approached me. It was at least a year ago, and he was talking about starting Silver Shamrock. I can't remember how long ago. It was a while ago, and he said, "You have anything that you want to send me or anything like that? I want to start out with these authors and stuff like that." And I didn't have anything, and also, even if I did, I wasn't about to just. I mean, we see small presses crumble all the time, and I didn't know, I was already kind of involved with a press that I regretted a little bit and wasn't very impressed. So the point, I make more money self-publishing than I do through a small press. And so there are very few now that I would even want to handle my book, I guess, because I don't see anything that they're doing that I can't do on my own. And that's the attitude of not every self-publisher, but a lot of the ones that have put the hours in to learn how to do everything yourself, like yourself, dude. You format, you do, I don't know if you've done your covers, but you can do covers.
Yeah, I've done the covers for Final Reconciliation, Scanlines, The Smile Factory, and Devil's Creek.
Okay.
With Devil's Creek specifically, that was strictly design. Greg Chapman did the artwork it's based on. I always give him props because he nailed that. He nailed it perfecly.
Yeah. So if you could do your own covers and then you can format, it needs to be a press that can do far more than reach more people, unless it's just a bucket list thing and you're just like, I've always wanted to be published by this press or whatever, so I'll go with them. But when Ken was talking to me, we talked for 2 hours that night, and I said, well, what is your plan? And I found out that I picked his brain about everything, and I said, when I found out that, because a concern of mine too was that I've seen publishers who they start out with good intentions and then they end up using royalties to pay their own bills, and then they pay their royalties late. And that doesn't seem like that's ever going to happen with Ken, because this isn't he's got a good job, and he has people working under him. And so hearing that this was never going to be his like plan B or his like fallback thing, I was like, okay, I might be on board. And then, so I've been in a couple of the anthologies, and I think you have been in at least one, maybe both of the anthologies.
I had a story in Midnight in the Graveyard.
Okay.
And I've got a story coming up in Midnight in the Pentagram.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, so I hadn't read Midnight in the Graveyard, so I didn't remember.
It's
The
fine.
only author I remember in there is, of course, McCammon. So.
Of course. I remember when Ken was stoked about that. He was so excited to announce that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
my cat jumps on my desk and puts his butt in the camera.
What kind of cat do you have, man?
This guy,
everyone.
He is a Norwegian forest cat. He was a rescue, and we figured out his breed. And he's a sweet boy, but he's also extremely energetic.
Are those in a similar family with the Maine Coon?
I think so.
Yeah. Is he big?
No, that's the thing. I think he was the runt of the litter. He's actually tiny. Like, we thought he was a Maine Coon.
Yeah.
When he was a kitten, and we were doing some research and discovered that Norwegian forest cats were a thing. They were actually domesticated by the Vikings.
That's dope. That's dope, man.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, a Viking cat. Yeah, we have one we thought was a Maine Coon. Just, the fur that he had, how, he was super tiny though. And we found it in the hood of a van. I was hearing this meowing. We're in a parking lot. I'm hearing this meowing. And I'm thinking it's up in the tree, but it's super young. And I'm looking up in the tree, and I keep having to back up because the noise is the meowing is behind me. So I'm like backing up to the edge of these branches, and I'm like, there's no way that that's like, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon magic stuff in the end of trees, I'm like, there's no way this cat is out there. And then I heard meow like this, and I looked down, and there's a minivan, and I'm like, that bugger is in the engine area. It took like a half an hour and a golf club to get that bugger out. Finally did. And his name is Rupert Francis, and his hair, super bushy cat, And that's when I learned about Maine Coons. And I didn't know either about tabby cats in the M shape right above their nose and stuff. I had no idea. I just, and I thought, man, that makes sense. It's a weird pattern that so many of my cats have had. Like, why do they all have an M above their nose? And so, but I learned about that, and he's pretty big, but he's not gigantic. He's larger. He's a large cat though. And the thing is that I was like, man, he kind of looks like a Maine Coon. And then we were driving by that same area, and there is a Maine Coon walking around free, just walking around the area. And I'm like, well, I know who the daddy is. So I know at least that. I don't know it, but so. Yeah.
I think you mean to say that he's strutting around.
He's strutting around. Yeah. He's got Staying Alive bumping in his head,
Of course.
Yeah. I was going to say, the viewers, they can't, the listeners, because people can watch this on YouTube, but your little studio there, man, is dope. I just got to say this. I've seen it in a video where all the lights were on, and I like that effect, with a long room. I have a couple friends that have studios like that, where it's a long room, kind of a narrower, and you might be, at the far end of the room, or the far end's way behind you, and it kind of gives a cool image to it and stuff. But you got these cool lights, man. They look like Christmas lights. Or
thanks, man. I got them from Spirit of Halloween. I had to, make this a Halloween office, not just a regular office.
Yeah.
Got to get in the spirit somehow, especially when I spend most of my time in this room. So, I try to get a nice, ambient glow going, and this is where I sit, and this is where the magic happens.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Speaking of Halloween, let me segue into what we've been doing this week and stuff. It's for anybody into horror, the whole month is Halloween basically, and it just gives us another excuse to really celebrate reading and watching horror, and just getting that horror, like Todd's got his Halloween lights out and stuff, and I committed to the 31 Days of Terror, where I watch a horror movie every day.
Nice.
And which isn't something I usually do. I don't even watch a movie every day, but I usually do wind down at the end of the day with watching a series, like even something that's I've already seen 2 or 3 times before, like The Office or Curb Your Enthusiasm or whatever. So just crap to wind down. And so 31 Days of Terror, I started because I was prompted by Monster Men, Jack Campisi and Hunter Shea. Mm-hmm. And they're doing that. So I compiled a list of movies that either I have never seen, which is about 90%, 95% of the movies on my list, or ones that I haven't seen in at least 30, 35 years. Like The Howling, I just saw. I hadn't seen it since like 83, 84. So
Wow.
But it's funny because, Final Guys, Hunter and Jack's other podcast with Tim Meyer and Jason Brandt. I watched that a lot. I just kind of discovered it recently. And so I've watched back episodes, and I show up Tuesday nights and I listen to them live, and I partake in conversation stuff. And I talked Jason into, he does this thing where he punishes himself and he watches an entire series of movies, like Children of the Corn. I think there's like 7, 8, 9 of them or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So he'll watch like 2 a week. And then, they talk about him, and stuff. And I kept, I was like, dude, do Amityville Horror. Because I knew there was a ton of them.
Oh, there's so many.
How many are there?
Well, there's only so many that like actually take place in the house, that have to do with the house. Yeah. And there's like, I don't know, like 28 or 30 that have the word Amityville Horror or Amityville in the title, but there's like officially or whatever that have to kind of more to do with the house and in an actual haunting. There's like, I think 12 or 13. So I talked him into it, and I said that I'd do it too.
I'm shocked. Like, I didn't realize there were that many. I thought Hellraiser had the largest.
And I didn't know that Hellraiser even had that. I think
oh my God. So I got a story about that. A buddy of mine that I went to school with, he still lives in Kentucky, but this is years ago. Back when Netflix on like the Xbox had the party ability where you could watch, like you and a party of friends could watch the same movie at the same time. I think they recently brought that back with the Netflix apps and stuff. We watched all of the Hellraiser films. Like, it was like 2 a night over the course of a week, and that was the worst week of my life. I mean, don't get me wrong. Hellraiser 1 and 2 are classics.
That's about it. Yeah.
3 is all right. 4, I can't stand that film. And the rest aren't really Hellraiser movies. They're just, a studio's poor attempt at keeping the rights. So they just like threw Doug Bradley into it for 2 minutes, and then, hey, we'll call it a Hellraiser movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like Home Alone, right? I mean,
yeah.
Home Alone 1 and 2, you can stomach. Home Alone 3, you're like, what's up with this? And now at like Home Alone 13, you're like, come on, these people, call CPS. Like, these people are dropping and forgetting their kid constantly. They obviously hate that child.
I'd love to see a Home Alone now, but starring Macaulay Culkin now. And he's and he's just like an agoraphobic, messed up kid.
Or he's in a band that like only sings songs about pizza.
Oh, would that be?
And then you're like, oh, wait a second, that's for real.
Yeah.
That actually happened.
So I've been watching the Amityville horror movies, and I've always enjoyed the first one. I know it's a bad movie, but I was like, I think 9 when it came out, and around that time, and I know I've talked about this before in the podcast, but at that time, it was such a good time to be alive for a horror kid because it was real. Nobody was really questioning it. It wasn't proven as a hoax or anything, but the Lutzes, they were going on talk shows. They were like household names, and the book came out, and it just like, it was kind of like when Blair Witch happened. It was like almost the first, it was the first big found footage movie, and the way they marketed it was real. It used unknown actors. They had that fake documentary Curse of the Blair Witch that came out before, so there was all of this hype, and it was just genius. The marketing was genius,
man. The Blair Witch, I look back at that point in my life. I was a teenager when that came out, and my dad and I were in Tennessee. We were down in Knoxville he had some kind of business thing, and I tagged along with him because we would go to the mall and stuff. And we knew nothing about it. Like, I had seen commercials, he had seen commercials, but we went into it thinking it was a documentary.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember, like, that's probably one of the only times in my life where I went to see a horror film and actually felt scared.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a scary movie, man.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, obviously, you see it now. It's after having seen it a million times. You know the tricks and everything. But,
Yeah.
you know, my dad was freaked out. My dad's not a horror guy at all. It freaked him out. And just everything about that, you know, like you said, the marketing, the websites, the book that came out, that had like the pictures of like the guy's car that was abandoned. They found, you know, they went searching for them. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And
I didn't even know that it wasn't. I mean, I wondered for a second, but I didn't know for sure if it was real or not until Chad talked to me about it. And he was telling me, you know, the tricks and like what they did. And I guess the girl from the film was at a convention and was kind of explaining some things. And Chad explained it to me. It was a great weight off my chest because I was like, man, this is absolutely terrifying. And the weed didn't help. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course not.
A lot of weed that night, but it, you know, definitely terrified out of my mind.
It was
And
genius.
yeah,
was genius.
totally genius. Yeah.
And I feel bad for the people who were, you know, it's one of these movies where if you miss one 30-second spot, not even that, maybe 10-second spot in the movie, you're not going to understand the end. And it in you know, with the whole like puts them in the corner thing.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's actually a part of the film where you could be, you know, checking your watch, your phone, or, you know, whatever, and maybe not paying attention. So I always kind of, when the movie came out, I could tell it was like, you didn't pay attention during the like interview parts, did you? It's like, oh, it's kind of boring. I was like, well, no wonder you had no idea what's going on or why because that ending is perfect.
It really is.
Yes. Or somebody had to go use the bathroom because they ate too many Rollos. Right. I mean, like, you know, some of that movie candy. You guys mentioned though Amityville and Hellraiser. I haven't seen either of those. I have the book for Amityville, but I've never read it.
Okay.
But I've never seen either one. I'm the white knuckled newbie, by the way.
Okay.
If it's not like super obvious, if someone's tuning in, they're like, so who's the white knuckled newbie that doesn't know jack about horror? Oh, that's me. And so. Yeah, I've never seen either. I saw I saw like 3 minutes of Hellraiser in the theater because, you know, you go in and you pass all these different theaters that are playing different movies. And I remember mine wasn't starting for like another 20 minutes. And so I snuck in there and I was watching and I didn't last very long. I had to get out of there very quickly with great haste because I was just so terrified. I'm like, oh no, get me out of here. And so, but I think they're on the list. Maybe not. Chad, you would know, Chad. You've got the master key to this list.
I don't know. I mean, I like those movies. For me, I loved them at the time. For me, there are some bits, particularly toward the end, that don't hold up very well. There's a lot of weird computer graphic explosion type laser stuff that is kind of cheesy at the end. But
have you read the book?
Yeah, I read the book. Yeah, but I think I don't remember enjoying the book very much. I mean, I liked it, but I have a hard time if I see a movie first and then I read the book. Like The Shining. Like I prefer Kubrick's movie over Stephen King's book. And I don't know if that has to do with, you know, I didn't read The Shining. I saw The Shining when, you know, in the 80s. Didn't read The Shining until maybe late 90s, mid to late 90s or something like that. And by that time I had already seen The Shining who knows how many times, and I had some of my favorite imagery in a film ever ingrained in my head. So it was I guess I was maybe a little biased. I know that it's a good book and I know that I'm in the minority when it comes to choosing one or the other. But yeah.
I'm actually with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there are aspects of the book I like over the movie, and there are aspects of the movie I like over the book. Like I don't think either one is perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the story of how Glenn Rolfe and I became friends, because I wrote something for Horror Novel Reviews back in the day about The Shining and how Stephen King isn't infallible. and giving my opinions on it. And of course, Matt Mulgard, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Sensationalized the hell out of it just so it would get clicks. And Glenn Rolfe was one of the guys who commented tearing into me. I'm like, man, it's just my opinion.
Yeah. Cancel this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cancel Todd.
Before canceling with a thing.
Yeah.
It is controversial too. I mean, I get hate if I bring up something like, some people are like, they're with me. Like the final guys, all those dudes, well, Jack, Hunter, and Jason all love Kubrick's The Shining. I think it's one of the best horror films ever made. And I think that they think it's superior to the book. However, Tim Meyer, he can't stand Kubrick's movie, and he thinks Mick Garris's piece of hot steaming garbage is superior. So I don't know how that.
I would say faithfulness to the book does not equal superiority.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those hedge animals that they tried to squeeze in there did not help. Those were bad.
I would say the CGI of the hedge animals didn't help. The concept was great.
Yeah. But when you're Kubrick recognized that well, we can't do this. We don't have the technology to do this. So we're going to have this cool maze that is going to be claustrophobic, and it's perfect. Whereas, we still didn't quite have the technology to pull that off. At least they didn't for the budget. And Mick Garris was like, we're going to do it anyway, because we're going to make everything exactly like the book, whether it works or not.
Yeah.
It didn't work. In my opinion.
Yeah. It's like the movie Blade. It was a Blade 2, where it was just a little too early for the CG.
Mm-hmm.
And so it ended up looking like, Gumby. And so, and you're like, kind of lost that effect, because he's so badass. And then all of a sudden it's just like, ice skating and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it was until Evil Dead 2 where CGI really started to find its.
Wow.
Kidding. I just saw that last night. We'll get to that later, but
wow. Yeah. So what of all the movies you've seen so far, like what would you say is like the worst one, dude? Are there any bad ones, or has it just been awesome? The Langoliers.
Stephen King's The Langoliers.
That's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
I love the concept of the Langoliers, but man, the CG kills that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the one I was talking about recently, man? Chad, Sleepwalkers. What did I say it was at first? I didn't say. I forget what I called it. It was crazy.
Night Stalkers. Night Stalkers.
Night Stalkers. Night
Walkers or something. Night Walkers.
Yeah. Night Walkers.
Yeah, it was Night Stalkers. And it's like, it's like, what is it? That movie you were talking about, Greasy Strangler or whatever. It's like, you just imagine, who's the Night Stalker guy? What's up with that? But that's kind of, it's one of those where, it's like, it might be a cool idea, but with the exception, of course, of like mommy and son kind of doing the thing. Like that was a little weird. But the graphics,
yeah,
I don't know, man. And now looking back, even watching Lawnmower Man now, like you watch it and it's like,
oh, dude,
he's in virtual reality, and you watch and you're like, it's like the virtual reality that they had back when Weird Al did UHF,
like,
and Beverly Hillbillies song, and just really not impressive at all.
Early 90s concept of what virtual reality might look like, and they got it way wrong.
That was horrible.
That movie's awful. All it has in common is the title and a guy with a lawnmower. Very early on.
That's so weird that it's even called Lawnmower Man.
I know.
See, it's way different, guys. Like the movie is way different from the book.
Isn't Lawnmower Man more about some dude like isn't he mowing the grass with his face?
Yeah, he's like eating the grass. Yeah.
It has nothing to do with virtual reality.
No. Wow. None of that is in the story.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did King think about that?
He had his name removed from it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, or I think I don't know if he sued them or not. I know he had his name removed.
I mean, that's not even like a small detail. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, well, that's just kind of director discretion. You know, that's like way off in left field.
Like I think the argument was is that they just stuck his name on it so it would sell. You know, so people would go see it. It was like a completely different movie, and it's like, hey, we bought the rights to this story like 20 years ago. Let's just slap Stephen King on it.
You know, I'm actually okay with the concept, like of a guy, you know, with mental disabilities that, you know, all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's a savant. You know, he's like super genius because of all this stuff and getting interconnected into the matrix of the universe. Like, I think it's kind of a cool idea. But at the same time, I mean, if you take a thing where a guy's mowing the yard with his face and you transform it into that movie, it's another level, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cocaine in that studio, boardroom. A lot of cocaine.
Yeah. Oh, that is so terrible. That is so terrible.
So Jeremiah, what have you been reading and watching this week?
Well, I've been doing a lot of reading, you know, for kind of like online reading, and it's unfortunate, but I finally broke out that book, A Monster Calls, because thematically and stylistically, there's a lot of similarities that I could gather. At least if I've heard that the movie follows along very well, very closely with the book. That's what I've heard anyway. And I loved the movie, and the book I'm writing, it's got kind of similar themes of tragedy and overcoming, you know, the loss of a family member. So I figured I'd go ahead and read it. And man, I got through hardly anything, and I'm bawling, man. I'm sitting there, you know, taking a dump, reading a book. I decided I'm going to stop taking in the cell phone, man. I don't know if somebody's recording, watching. So I'm like, I'm just going to, you know, nobody's recording me with the book. And so I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and just bring my book in there. And I'm just like bawling. And I said, this is a terrible thing. Why is weird stuff happening when I go to the bathroom? But I was just weeping in there by myself, man. Very sad. Which that's like an extra bummer for reasons I won't go into. You know, it's one of those things. But like so I've been reading it though, and really enjoying it and liking the art. And been doing that carnivore challenge, you know, and I know a lot of people, you know, it might really rile them up and they say, you're just eating meat. And I say, no, I mean, that's crazy. I'm eating eggs and cheese too. But
did you eat the cake, dude?
I did eat the cake. I did.
Knew it. I knew you were going to.
I did. I ate the cake, dude. My son had his birthday last month, and I'm watching. Everybody's eating pizza, and there's Doritos and all this stuff, and I'm just like looking at everybody with sad puppy eyes, you know, like what's this? And I'm eating some pork slab or something, and which is delicious, of course. I don't want to complain about that, but I put that cake, and they were going to throw away the cake. They're like, oh well, or the kids are like, oh yeah, well I can eat it tomorrow and the next day. I said, no, you will not. And so I put that cake in the freezer. And apparently I didn't even barely remember this, but I had put these cookies in the freezer. They were like these kind of sugar cookies with like this icing in the middle. It was just a huge mound of icing between the cookies, man. And it just looked delicious. It had sprinkles and stuff. So I put them things in the fridge, and they were in there for like 3 weeks, dude. And I said, it's been over a month. I am doing this. And the thing is, man, I ate the cookie. And I only ate like half the cake. It was delicious, but I didn't have a stomach for it, man. And I went the next day. I was back on track with doing the carnivore thing because I'm really enjoying it. Lost a lot of weight. So I ate the cake, right? It was delicious while it was wonderful while it lasted. And I shared the rest of it with the kids. I let them have the rest, and my wife, of course. And then really the only other thing I've been doing, I've been thinking about doing like streaming maybe once a week or something for members of my website and stuff, to do like a streaming of video game. But I didn't want to do, you know, everybody's like, oh, you should play this game or that game. And they're all kind of the newer ones that all the big name people are doing, which there is, you know, a draw to that. But I thought, what if I played games like Wolf 3D? Like, I don't know if you guys remember that.
Of course.
You know, yeah, Wolf 3D or Doom. I went on yesterday. I found a place online, this retro video game place where you can play tons of Atari and Nintendo games and stuff like that, original Sega. And so I'm on there, and my son's like, play Mike Tyson's Punch Out. So we were playing that, and I thought that'd be a lot of fun, man, to sit there and just, you know, jabber jaw while I'm doing that. And so played video games and stuff. And the last thing, this is something I watched, okay? Because other than the movie we're going to talk about, I watched something that really shook me to the core, dude. I don't know if I've ever seen anything grosser, more horrifying and offensive as mukbang. And I don't know if you guys know what the crap that is, but that is people eating large amounts of food, staring into a camera with the mic by their neck cranked up as loud as you can get, hearing that, and they're just like shoving food into their mouths, and it's got just, you know, ranch dressing all over their chin and stuff. And dude, is nasty. And but it's like a car accident. You know, you drive by that and you can't help but to look, kind of thing, you know. And it's like the same thing. And next thing I know, it's like 4 hours later, I've seen about 30 different mukbang videos. I'm sick to my stomach. And I'm like, I got to get off of this. I don't know what's happening to me. But I thought maybe, you know, that might be something to do too. You know, eat some food and talk at a camera. But I saw it. And you guys, if you haven't seen mukbang, Nikocado avocado. Just, that's all you got. Nikocado avocado. That cat is nuts. And the whole thing is insane. But it's nasty, dude. It's food everywhere, all over the face. And really intense, and people love it. They watch it, millions and millions. And I guess it started in South Korea because people were lonely, and they would say like people would be able to eat lonely in diets. So like if you're lonely and you're eating by yourself, you just turn on YouTube and there's somebody eating, and you just eat with them. And then they had people like diets. If you're on a restrictive diet and you're kind of like, man, I'm kind of craving that people would actually watch that and just at least be able to see that, you know, there are people who can still enjoy things in life.
That's weird. It's kind of like it's almost like the logic behind pornography. It's like, I can't get laid, so I'm gonna watch somebody else get laid.
Wow. Yeah.
Isn't that what you're saying? Like, I'm on a diet.
I can't do it. Yeah,
I'm gonna watch somebody else enjoy what I can't have.
The first thing that comes to mind when you're talking about this is that ASMR stuff where people will make sounds in like the specialized microphone, and I don't understand that. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, you know, it might have been something innocent originally, but if it's millions of views, I'm sure that there are some people out there who just have a weird fetish about it and are, you know, watching it for 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm telling you. Well, yeah, it's easy. I know, man. I'm telling you. It's true. It was like, and it was late at night. I don't even know how I stumbled on it. I think I saw a meme or something that was, you know, kind of poking shots at this and stuff. And I'm like, what the heck is that? So I just looked it up, you know. I looked up something like really overweight guy that cries when he eats. That's all I looked up on YouTube. And there he is. I'm like, oh, that's the guy right there. Like, enough people must look that up. And so I'm like, okay, I guess, you know, he's got tons of these videos, people making reaction videos to his stuff. And, but just the sound, and that's what I can't deal with, man. I can't even deal with it if I'm in a room and somebody's eating and it's really like, even if their mouth is shut, if I'm hearing them swallow, I'm just kind of like, I'll very slowly kind of slither away from them, like imperceptible movements to get away, just out of the earshot. Cause I can't. It's too much. I gag. And so, but I'm watching this, which was a weird experience, man, to watch something that's making you sick to your stomach and making you like, and you're like wanting to gag. And then you're like, oh, is there another one? Oh my gosh. And you just keep going. And you're like, what am I doing to myself? So mukbang. Yeah. Just really, it's a terrible thing. That's my horror so far this week, other than the movie. Yeah.
Wow.
So what about you,
yourself, Todd?
I can't compete with mukbang or whatever it's called.
Yeah, man.
So what was the question? I'm sorry. I'm so disgusted.
What have you been doing this week? What have you been reading?
What have I been? Let's see. I finished up reading Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. I started reading. I'm 2 chapters into S.A. Cosby's Blacktop Wasteland. I needed a palate cleanser.
That looks
so
good.
I'm reading. Yeah, like Sean's a hell of a writer. It's amazing so far. Like, it sucked me in immediately. I sat down expecting to read just like a couple of pages before bed, and it's like I am like 50 pages into it, and you know, I can't put it down. Before that, I finally got around to reading The Bone Weaver's Orchard by Sarah Reed, another good one. Movie wise, I watched From Beyond for the first time in like years.
What a treat. Oh, for the first
Yeah.
time in years. Okay.
Yeah, it'd been a long time. Last time I saw that, I was a kid. Really liked it. I think I liked it more than Reanimator, to be honest.
I think I haven't seen From Beyond since probably 86 or whenever it came out. But I think I liked it more too. But I
Yeah.
really liked Reanimator too.
I mean,
What is that? What for those of our listeners who wouldn't know? What is
okay,
that?
so
Yeah.
Reanimator,
Yeah.
Reanimator, and From Beyond are two films by Stuart Gordon. He was really into adapting stories by H.P. Lovecraft. So Reanimator is an adaptation of Herbert West Reanimator, about a guy who develops a serum that can bring the dead back to life. From Beyond is also adaptation of the story of the same title about a scientist who makes this machine that is like a giant tuning fork, and it stimulates the pineal gland in your brain to make you perceive other realities around us. That the story is far less gruesome than the film adaptation. Stuart Gordon goes way over the top with the gore and stuff. Reanimator's got more of like a comedic element to it.
Yeah, it's very tongue in cheek.
From Beyond's a bit more. They play it a bit more straight. It's more serious horror film.
When did these come out? Like, are they more recent? Or are they?
No,
Oh, 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, From Beyond, like, has it got like a bunch of psychedelic kind of scenes and stuff?
They belong to like the body horror subgenre.
I was saying,
a lot of
the
80s
pineal
stuff.
gland and all that. Like, I didn't know like what kind of scenes they would have to demonstrate like that's happened.
Well, they have like
a literal
lighting.
pineal gland sticking out of the dude's forehead.
Yeah, it like pops out
Really?
of the dude's head. It's like this worm is like looking around.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like the adrenochrome stuff from like Fear and Loathing, where you're seeing lizard monsters and stuff.
No.
And, okay.
No.
I wasn't. Yeah.
They did like the weird. I don't even know what you would call it. Like they're inverting the colors on the camera screen, kind of like how they did in Predator.
Yeah.
When like looking, that's kind of like that to give you the impression that you're seeing what he's seeing with his advanced pineal worm gland sticking out of his skull.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say pineal gland? What did I say?
No, you said pineal gland.
I said pineal gland. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just, I was like, when you said that, I was like, did I say pineal gland or?
Yeah.
I had my adrenochrome moment.
So besides that, I've been playing a couple of games myself. I got back into playing Alien Isolation on my PC.
Never even heard of that.
Game is amazing. I would say it's probably the only good Alien game. It's like you play as Ripley's daughter, and they nailed like the whole aesthetic from the first film. It's like a direct sequel to the first film, because the second one takes place like 50 years later because she's been floating in hyperspace or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, this is like her daughter's grown up, the Nostromo's missing. It's been this big mystery, and they get this Wayland Yutani, gets a call from some far out space station that they found the Nostromo's flight recorder. So they get her daughter to go back with them to this, this station, and things are all going wrong and stuff. And of course, there's an alien involved. So it's fantastic. It's scary as hell because the alien is completely randomized and it will kill you on sight. You can't defend yourself against it.
Whenever I think of an alien game, man, I always think of like Contra. You know what I'm saying? I know that's old school. It's like you can't really compare them to like modern gaming. Contra, and man, I had another one in mind too. Oh, Doom. So that I would classify. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, would that classify as like? I guess it would be kind of a demon game, but it's also, I mean, they got like weird tech and stuff, man.
Doom is specifically demons from hell.
It's demons from hell. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell's an interesting looking place in Doom. I never thought, because it looks like it could be like space stuff, like sci-fi. It's got the kind of glowing lights where you can find your armor and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they this, in this episode, we'll find out how much of a video game nerd Todd is. In the newer Doom games, they actually flesh out the story of, the gateways to hell and everything, and like why, because it takes place like 200 years in the future. So we were like harnessing some kind of energy from hell, and the Doom guy, they call him the Doom Slayer, and he's like the whole thing. He's like this nonstop murdering machine, and they say like the only thing they fear is you.
Yeah. Yeah, they wouldn't fear me though, because I'm the guy that's like so terrified playing that game. I can't do it with all the lights off. I've tried, man. I start sweating profusely. Dude, the original, I play Wolfenstein and I hear Umbapa. If I'm in a room by myself in the dark, dude, I'm like biting nails, like and making that noise when you go against the wall to find a secret space where it's like grrr, grrr, doing that just because it kind of alleviates the tension of that moment.
If I may be so bold, man, you're playing Doom all wrong. Okay, you got to crank up some 80s hair metal or Slayer or something while you're playing Doom. You need some form of heavy metal playing while you're killing demons from hell.
Yeah, it makes sense, dude.
Yeah,
it makes sense. You'll
be less afraid, and you're more just running on adrenaline and want to, rip the limbs off of everything. It's pretty.
Yeah, awesome. It's like if it has the effect of like stars on Mario, that it just doesn't stop. It's just a constant star effect. I'm super awesome right now. Boom, 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 boom. And so I can imagine that. It's a way to do it. Have you played? Is it The Rest of Us?
The Last of Us.
The Last of Us. Have you played that?
I have.
What do you think of that?
I've played both the games. I think they are masterpieces. Narrative-wise, the stories in those games will rip your heart out. Yeah. Like some of the stuff that happens to these characters, like they actually do this amazing job of getting you to care about these virtual characters. The second game especially, oh my god.
What did you feel? I don't know too much about the game. Obviously, I didn't even know the title necessarily. I was on track though, right?
Yeah.
But the how did you feel having played both of them? Because I have friends that play. How did you feel about the you had to play many hours?
You're gonna want to put a spoiler alert warning on this because people will tear you a new one. For that.
Has it? But it's been around long enough, man. There's been enough viral videos of people talking about
it. The second game only came out over the summer.
We're gonna have to take that part out though, Chad, because dude, I don't want people coming at me like Scientologists going after those people that reveal the master secret. People can be like, "What? You ruined it for me, Jeremiah."
You mean I spent $1 million to find out that we've been worshiping an alien?
Yeah.
Spoiler, Scientologists. You're in a cult. Wake up. Wake up.
Yeah, man.
They're stealing your money. They don't pay taxes.
That game you're talking about kind of reminds me of this one that I played a year or two ago, and I can't remember. I think it was called like This War of Mine or something like that.
Yeah. I played that briefly.
That was depressing, really man.
Yeah,
it's depressing because you have to, it's post-apocalyptic. Everybody's starving, trying to survive, and you got to make tough decisions. Sometimes people show up at your house and they're like, "Please, I'm starving. Can you spare anything?" And and then you go out to hunt for food, and you end up like at some old couple's house. And they're like, "Please don't," and you're like robbing them, and they're like, "Please, my husband is dying. He's sick. He needs to eat." And you're like, whoosh, you're taking the food, and it's like, oh,
wow.
I mean, you can decide what you're gonna do, but you're also dying too.
Yeah.
And you have other people in your house to feed.
It's like a major experiment of social psychology,
Really, it really is,
isn't it? Right?
Yeah. I don't care for games like that just because I kind of go to them as an escape. And, it's like stuff like that is like, we're 2 or 3 bad weeks of that transpiring. So,
we're getting too close. Getting a little too close for that.
Yeah,
man. Oh, that's hilarious.
That's why I thought too, right in, I think it was at the end of February, beginning of March, I made a prediction that well, it wasn't so much a prediction. I had a theory that either a ton of authors were going to immediately start writing a post-apocalyptic stuff, but that none of it would sell.
Yep.
Because nobody would want to read that. And none of us knew how long this was going to last. Thank God we didn't know at the time, because you can imagine if you knew, by the way, I know it's only a March, but this will still be going on in October. That would be a hard pill to swallow, man. So I'm thankful that this has been like a kind of a weaning process, for us. But anyway, yeah. So I thought, and as the months went on, I was like, yeah, definitely no one is going to be interested in. I mean, there are some people who are like, I'm hardcore. I'm going to watch, what was that movie people were watching for a while there that was on
Contagion?
Yes, Contagion.
Yeah.
I watch.
I'm going to watch Contagion, and then I'm going to watch
Another one,
Stand, and then I'm going to read Swan Song, and
I for one want to see the apocalyptic pizza stories. That's a nod to Max.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Speaking,
you son of a bitch.
And if you've got any post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic pizza stories, Max is looking for them. So
absolutely, send them to Max Booth the Third.
He loves them.
Quick aside about Max, when he posted his phone number on the last day of his job at the hotel, and I called him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as soon as he posted that, I'm like, I have to.
Like going back to the whole idea of like movies that would be representative of this, or like books that people would write. It'd be like coming out with a book and saying, this is your Facebook newsfeed. People are seeing this kind of thing every day. They go on social media. This is your Twitter account, your Twitter timeline. You're like, oh, great. I got to see this more.
They call it doom scrolling for a reason.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Chad.
Yes.
You ready to talk about this movie, brother?
Absolutely, man.
Dude, it's going to be awesome, man.
I was born for this. My whole life has been leading up to this very moment talking about this film.
I have some cool stories to tell about it. Got some opinions that nice. You guys do too. So yeah, let's get into Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
Groovy.
Yeah.